What is up, guys? My name is Barry Michael Doyle, and welcome to another overdue video. I'm sorry, I always get carried away with work and stuff, but I'm back. So, I got a really nice comment from a dude asking me about modularizing imports and exports, and I can't even think about what I'm talking about right now. But basically, in this video, I'm going to explain some cool things about ES6 imports and exports that should hopefully teach you some neat little tricks that will make your code cleaner and easier to read and just nicer to work with when structuring your applications. But before I continue, check out this epic book by John Sonmez. It's called The Complete Software Developer's Career Guide, and then all that other text that's like written down there. This book, honestly, if it cost $50, I would have told you to go buy it. But it's going for $5 on Amazon at the moment, and I think it's always going to be going for $5 because he wants it to reach more people. This book's amazing. I honestly recommend it to anyone. If you're a junior dev, go for it. If you're just getting started, go for it. If you're a senior dev, it's going to fill the gaps. It doesn't matter what your programming language, this is going to help you a lot in your software development career. Whether you're working full-time or freelancing or just doing it for fun, this should help you out a lot. And then also, there's the comment that encouraged me to do this video as well. Thanks, Max Equation. I really appreciate it. There's my little one like there. That was me. I liked your comment. I won't be doing a video on TypeScript this time, but I want to do that in the future. So if you guys are keen, leave some comments. I love your comments. But now we actually better get going with a coding example of what I want to explain. So let's carry on over to some code. Right, so here we have a little tiny pet project I'm working on. I made a region here so that you can not see the useless stuff that I don't want to be talking about right now. So I just commented that all out, and then this stuff isn't really relevant either. So I actually want you to just focus on this. I'll undo things later. Nope, things are going to go crazy. So this isn't too relevant. I want to focus on the header, content, footer, these components that I've got sitting in here. So obviously header is there, content is there, footer is there, and I've got them from the components folder, and then they're in folders down here. So if we just focus purely on the header one, check this out. Sorry, it doesn't like two lines there. This header is basically down here, it is the index.js file. So I've just made it like a default export. It's kind of my way of doing things. I could probably name it better, but yeah, this is my way of doing things, and the whole point is being consistent. So we've got a header index file here. So technically over here we could say header slash index.js. So that's technically what's happening here. We're getting header from components slash header slash index.js. Now with the most of your apps that you'd have set up, you'd have stuff that actually just automatically compile your code, so you don't need the JS in general when you're doing this. But then also, if you've got an index file, that's like the root file of your component. So suddenly we can actually just say header. If this was something else, there we go, I call it something else, then over here I would need to actually say something else. Otherwise it wouldn't work. But because, oh, sorry, it automatically completed things for me. Because we are calling it index, it actually just goes and looks at that file when you go target header. It always targets the index. So that's a cool little thing about importing and exporting. But there's more cool things. By the way, I have a feeling people are going to ask me about this region thing. It's a really cool thing in VS Code. I used to do a lot of like actual Visual Studio stuff, and regions are awesome because you can just say hashtag region and then a name, and then you end it down here, you say hashtag end region, and basically it like groups your code nicely. So that's a cool little side trick as well. Anyway, what I actually wanted to say was, let's go back to this header thing, and this, it's not too much. I'm doing a React Native application here, but what we've basically got is we've got a const header, and I'm just going to write this out so it's easier to read. So that's our header, and what we were doing is we're exporting default header. So that's the same as what we had just now. It's just the other thing I had was, you know, not really naming it and just making it the default export, this whole thing here. That should be right. Header's already defined. Oh, we'll call it header component because I'm using another thing called header inside here. So header component, and we're exporting default header component. So the cool thing is, remember we've called this header component, but over here we can call this whatever we want and it will still work. So this and I gotta change it down here as well where I use it, could be anything, and it will technically still work because what we're having here is we're getting the default. We're actually getting the default thing that was exported from component slash header, which is header components. So we're naming it anything we want. If we wanted to, we could actually not export default, and we could just export it as it was coming in. So export this, and then we could, if we wanted to, export default some stupid text hello. So now what we want the header component that's been exported, but we don't want the default export, which, by the way, this is terrible practice. You should have sort of one export per file. That's generally the best practice. Well, it's not the best practice. It's my way of doing things is I'm keeping consistent. So a nice way to keep your code base clean is to modularize it and have one export per file. In some cases it's different, but in general it's a good rule of thumb to have. So yeah, we don't want to get anything, which is technically, I'm going to rename it to header now. Let's call it header. I should do a video on keyboard shortcuts. That was cool. Anyway, we're going to look at this header here. So what's actually happening now is we're importing the default, which is hello, but we want to export header component over here. We want to import from that. So what we've actually got to do is we've got to wrap this in curly brackets, and we've got to specifically say header component. And then you got to change it down there. But what if I wanted to get this header component and import it as a header? So here's another cool trick. You can say as header, and now suddenly you can basically say you're importing the named header component over here, and then you're calling it header when you're going to use it as you import it, and you can have it down there. So I know I haven't really shown you guys that this is working, but everything I'm saying, I work with this for a living. I know that this works. It's true. It's great. So what's different between the content here and the stuff wrapped in brackets, again, let's ignore this little tip here, is the difference between this and this is that in content, I'm exporting the default. So if we looked back at our header over here, we would be exporting the default header over here, and then basically you'd import it like that without the brackets. But so if there's no curly brackets, it means you're importing the default, and you can call it whatever you want when you import it, because the default could be anything. Now, when you have this, the brackets, it means you're importing from the actual header component. So in this case, both would work. But if we export null or something stupid as default, now we'd have to do the brackets thing. And if we did this, then we could do both. But that's bad practice. You should actually know what you're doing. So if you're not going to be using this as like a single named export, then just keep it as const and get the default export. So I know it's a bit overwhelming, but as you work with it, like, you get really used to it. And again, now that it's the default export, we can just call it header. So that explains that. Now, using all these little things that I've taught you about, we can do something really cool. I don't know if you're sure of the concept DRY, dry. I talk about it a lot of my blog posts and stuff. So also, by the way, I've done a blog post on this whole video, so check it out. That link is in the description below. But as you can see here, we're importing multiple things from components. They're all the same. They're just like repetitive things. And you know, we don't like repetitive things because we're programmers, we're lazy. So what we can do is we can modularize our code all into the components using the tricks that I've just shown you. So we'll keep this, I'm going to just change this back for future use in case I start working on this project again and think random things. Those two things that you saw there, they do the same thing. It's just in this case, I haven't given a name to it because I don't need to name it. I'm not using the default export bundle anywhere else. So what we can do is, using all that knowledge that we've just got, we can do this nifty little trick where we add an index file to our components. So another index.js. And now, from here, we could just import all of our things from here and then export them straight out again so that we can get them over here. So what I do is, using our things, now here's another little trick. What we can do is we can straight up export, and now we're going to get the default as, let's say, header from /header. Now, let me just explain what's going on here. Dot slash header, in this case, we're looking over here. So we're at this components level. Inside the header, we actually have like the default export. So we're getting like this from header slash index.js. And obviously, because of our compiler just knowing that it's going to be index.js, we can make it simpler to read by just saying it's from the root header file. So what we do here is we're basically getting the default from header, and we're calling it header, and then we're exporting it out again. So that means that in our main thing over here, we don't need to get this. We can import header. Now remember, it's been named now. So in here, it's been given a name, header. So we import it in brackets. And we say from dot slash components. Now that's pretty cool. Like, check how epic that is. So the cool thing is we can do that again with these stuff. So if we go down here, we can go export default as content. So we're exporting the default thing from the content file, and we're calling it content. And we'll be able to get it when we import it later as just content from the components. And I'm doing the same for footer now. We can like get the stuff from the components in our main index file. So I hope you're carrying along, but just watch the video again if you don't get it. And turn off ad block. I need the money. So now we don't need these. We can straight up get header and content and footer from our components. So all of our components are grouped together nicely. Okay, I've got like styles inside my footer and styles inside my items inside my content. So it's a lot of modularizing. But the nice thing is like now when you're looking at your app and you want to look at the footer, you can go there. Sorry, I've got a lot of stuff going on. And you can get the specific style. The styles are in the style folder. So I do the constant exporting here. Like, you know, it's normal. This is a bit overwhelming, but I'm exporting body style, exporting input style. And then I get to import it from styles. And again, you don't have to say, I just like the icons. So I keep everything folded and then just have index files for everything. So then you can collapse things and see things from the outside very nicely. But whatever you do, try and keep things consistent. If you're going to do something one way, do it that way. So like in my case, I like to put everything in folders with indexes. If you like to literally just have cool little names and call it content.js, footer.js, header.js, then go for it. In my case, I just like bundling it so that I can specifically say items as a like subset of content and all that stuff. So it makes sense, and why I do it my way. I write like enterprise level applications, so it's pretty hectic. Anyway, what was I saying? Let's go back to here. This is basically what the video is about. I wanted to show you that you could do this. You could import all your stuff from components by just adding this nice little extra index file to your components where you export all your things, all your default components as named ones, and you can access them directly from here. So it really helps a lot when your applications get a lot bigger. Often I do this with helpers. I'd write a whole bunch of helper functions, and I'd end up having like a helpers library, and then I can just get it from .helpers or ./helpers. And the cool thing is, like, by doing this component modularizing, by putting everything in folders, you can test individual helpers by attaching test files just to their specific little folders that they're in. But that is going to cut it for the video. Definitely follow me on Facebook, and I got Twitter as well. Just look up my name. My name is Barry Michael Doyle. You'll find me on Facebook. You'll find me on Twitter. You'll find me on Medium. I write a lot of my articles on Medium. All the good ones are on Medium. The rest are on my website at barrymichaeldoyle.com. If I can spell my name right, that's my name, Barry Michael Doyle. I'm on YouTube, obviously, because you're watching this. Please like the video if you've enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't so you can get more. What else am I on? If you invite me on LinkedIn, you'll find me there too. That's a cool thing. That's pretty much it, really. I mean, there's Google+, but who uses Google+? No offense, Google. Please don't downrate my videos. I'm going to cut it for this video, guys. We will chat soon. Cheers, all the best.